Here's left, pulls up, looking for the lead, and got it. Jalen Williams, 2 seconds, 1:11.109. Now SGA, probing, piercing, spinning, hanging for the lead, and SGA knocks it down. The Thunder finally get the defensive stop, and SGA puts them in front.
I'm Kenrich Williams. You're listening to Topic Thunder.
What is up, y'all? Welcome back to the Topic Thunder podcast. I'm your host for today, Cone. Dylan is not here at the moment. We don't have Tierney, we don't have Jerry. It's me and Alex in the Batmobile. Alex, how we feeling, man? Game 7, we were both in the building. I'm still in my hotel in OKC because I convinced myself to stay for Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals, too. You feeling good?
I'm feeling good, man. I'm feeling good. This is fun. This is fun, like not having too long of a break.
Yeah.
Like when you have too long of a break, you start to get a little bit overconfident or over anxious, either or maybe even a combination of both. And so just having a game, a day in between and then, starting the next series, to me, especially for the Thunder, who I think they work better with in rhythm than they do with a break. I think it works in their favor. And hell, man, I just saw a game yesterday and I'm going to see a game tomorrow. So I'm here for it.
Me too, man. Me too. You and me both. It was, a great Game 7. Obviously, neither one of us were on the post-game pod yesterday, so we're just going to real quick talk about some of our thoughts on Game 7 and what it was like being in the building, and then we're going to break down the Western Conference Finals. We got Minnesota series that almost happened last year. If we were able to pull out a Game 6 win against Dallas and go back and win at home, it would have been us against Minnesota, 2 of the top 3 seeds in the Western Conference, the top 2 seeds, if I remember correctly. In the West last year, this year, we're the 1 seed. They're the 6 seed, but they've really turned it up in the second half of the season and been actually insane. So a lot to get into with that matchup. But first, Game 7. It was my first Game 7 in Paycom Center. It was my 3rd ever Thunder playoff game. I went to Games 1 and 2 of the Pelican series last year. Game 1 especially, it ends with Cason Wallace getting the stop on CJ McCollum, who ends up missing that jumper. Thunder win. It was loud. It was a huge pop in the arena. Everybody was hyped. It was the first playoff game back in Oklahoma City since pre-COVID. It was great energy, but it was nothing like yesterday. Yesterday, when we went on that little run where, Dub got a couple of buckets and Shea got that bucket in the middle, I legitimately couldn't hear myself yelling. I was like screaming, and they give you like the little clapper thing where you fold the cardboard and then you're able to like hit it against your hand and make noise.
The fan bammer.
Fan bammer, thank you. But I was using that and I was yelling and stuff. I couldn't hear any of it. Like, it was just over everybody else doing the exact same thing. I felt like I couldn't hear myself think. The single loudest moment I've ever had at a sporting event, not even relatively close.
Yeah, man, that was awesome, man. Especially those, and I wrote that down as far as like a tweet. Whenever it was 3 minutes left in the first half, like I was like, this is it. This feels like this is an inflection point for this game. Like whether either we go ahead and add a couple points to our lead here and go into halftime with a little bit of momentum, or we do what we've done so many times before, is we allow another team, allow the other team to kind of claw back into it and gain momentum and then kind of lose it from that point on. And so, just hearing that crowd, just kind of like the level up of the crowd every time, every steal, every dunk, every shot, it was amazing. But my daughter asked me, she was like, oh my gosh, she was like, is that the loudest you've ever heard it? And I was like, still doesn't compare to Game 3, 2010 against the Lakers, that 3-minute run, or that 2-minute run at the end of the third quarter. So, I know that we have that in us, and I know that there are certain things that can happen, in the future, as far as like Western Conference Finals and maybe even finals that can get to that point. But we still haven't gotten there yet. Oklahoma City still got a little bit of work to do to get to that point.
Well, the hope is we get to that point, and we do so by knocking off the Wolves. It was, for me, the loudest. Again, I never saw those teams in person. That game, I was 10 years old, so I wasn't flying out to Oklahoma City at that point as a 10-year-old to see those games. But it was super cool to experience, and it felt like a big moment. I think it was added to by the slow start that Thunder had as well. You and I were talking about that pre-pod where it was like, a little bit of nerves, a little bit of anxiety. They were passing up shots. It was like nobody wanted to shoot. And you're like, guys, this is a Game 7. We really need you right now.
Yeah.
And then the Nuggets kept fighting back. Like, we took the 1-point lead. We had that great start to the second quarter because for some reason David Adelman ran a lineup with no Jokic, no Murray. I don't know why he even thought about doing that,
was
never mind
wild.
executed it.
That was
Like the
wild.
first big mistake it felt like David Adelman made, and that was a turning point in the game. Not saying that was the reason the Thunder won or anything, but that was when we really started to build the momentum, and then we were up 1, we were up 3, up 4, like we were kind of, up a little bit, but then just the dam burst in that run, and I mean, you could hear it amongst the crowd. The guy I was sitting next to, because I'm just here by myself, I was at the end of a row. He said that he came in from Kansas City. He was wearing a Chiefs jersey and got yelled at by someone in, I think, the third quarter. They're like, "This isn't a Chiefs game. Put on the damn shirt." And but he said there's a neutral fan just because he knows how good Jokic and Shea are and how good these teams are. And he's like, it's a game 7. It's not that far, so I want to go there. But he was very clearly rooting for the Nuggets, even if he didn't want to say it. Like when the Thunder started going on their run, he was dead silent. When the Nuggets started to do stuff, he was like, "Oh, wow, okay, cool, yeah." And then when the Thunder really went up big in the fourth quarter, he was like, "Hey, man, I'm heading out. It was great to meet you." So very clearly was rooting for the Nuggets more than he wanted to admit. But like, I mean, he went dead silent. I was dapping up people next to me, going crazy. Incredible atmosphere, a lot of fun. But now we've got a game literally tomorrow. Like, it's the immediate turnaround. I don't know why the Eastern Conference Finals didn't start tonight.
Makes no sense to me at all. It makes no sense to me at all.
Like, even just thinking about like the timing of games, because I don't even know when, like, I guess maybe game 7 of one of those series would have been today, so they changed the scheduling up. But it also said online.
I just figure you have to be able to flex yourself in the playoffs. Like, well,
the Western Conference Finals was flexible. If we had won, I think in game 6, then like game 1 would have been yesterday. Yeah, game 1. So I don't know how they didn't flex it, how nothing changed. I don't understand the scheduling. I don't understand how we don't know who the MVP. It's Shea, but I don't know how we don't know officially who the MVP is yet.
Adam Silver, what are you doing?
And then we had the NBA PR tweet today, or NBA communications or whatever, and they're like, "Guess what, guys? We're announcing the all-rookie team tomorrow."
All-rookie team. 2024-25, the season with no MVP.
Yeah, apparently they were just like, "We're sick of the discourse. We don't even want to do it." It's just so weird to me. They announced every other major award. Everything else has been announced. Like, we know who won it. If you ask almost anybody, they are like, "Yeah, Shea." The Vegas odds say it. All the confirmed votes are leaning towards Shea for a heavy majority. I just don't understand how we don't know quite yet. I saw that tweet. It might have been from Dolan, actually. Shout out to Dolan, who was saying that Brian Windhorst was on a podcast, and he said that he asked the NBA, why haven't they announced it yet during the second half of this Nuggets Thunder series? And they're like, "Oh, we never announced it during the second half of a series." He's like, "Okay, well, why didn't you do it the first half?" And they just never responded to him. So he's not really sure what's going on. Also, someone in the comments said that they did announce it last year. I think game 5, Denver, Minnesota in Denver, I believe. Or like around one of those games, or game 4. I don't know. It just seems like it's super weird. I don't know what's going on, but we know it's Shea. It's just, I want it to be official at this point,
But
So
I mean, like, look, man, like, it does not get announced tomorrow. Like, I'm at a loss for words. Like, I'm just like, what are you guys waiting on? Like, number one, you hamstrung yourself because you said, the all-rookie teams are coming out, so they got to be coming out tomorrow. And they're not going to attach an MVP and an all-rookie team. So then now we got to wait till game 2.
And also, it's May 19th. The regular season has been over for almost over a month at this point. And the regular season awards, why do we not know yet? It's super weird. It should be before game 1 or game 2 of the Western Conference Finals. It should be. Game 1, it feels a little late now, but hopefully before game 2 somehow it's announced. I don't really know. We'll have to see. Also, we don't know all defense yet. We don't know all NBA.
I want it to be game 1 because I won't be at game 2.
Yeah, well, I was also going to leave OKC before game 2, so I want it to be game 1, but it feels a little late now. I don't know how. Like, game 1 feels like such a good time. Shea defeated Jokic in the playoffs. He defeated him in the MVP race. It's like the start of a new series. Do it now. Why would you not do it now? I don't understand. Anyways, let's talk about the Minnesota Timberwolves. Thunder were playing them. Of course, they have home court advantage. The Wolves have, I think, 6-7 days of rest at this point. So it's another rest versus rust thing. It can go really either way. Thunder had a bunch of rest going into the Nuggets series, and they lost game 1. They looked a little bit rusty at times. So there's a couple different ways it could go. Thunder had a good bit of rest. Grizzlies had some momentum coming out of the play-in, and the Thunder beat them by 50. I don't really think it plays that much of a factor, especially being a deeper team. I think we'll be fine either way, but it is something to note. But yeah, that's where we're at going into things. Thunder are favorites. Obviously, I think the most popular betting option is like Thunder in 5 or Thunder in 6, one of the two. How you feeling, vibes wise? Where are you at right now?
So vibes are good.
Yeah.
We're heading into a situation that we've never been in, as far as this young Thunder squad. And what kind of worries me a little bit, it's the same thing from the second round where the experience factor of it all. Like you said, Jokic has been in what, 7 game 7s throughout his career.
I believe so, yeah.
So this was our first game 7. This was our first series against a player of that caliber, number one. And we took it all the way to 7 and we won game 7. With all that said, we look at Minnesota, and a lot of people will look at Minnesota and say they're also young and they're also up and coming, but they went to a Western Conference Finals last year. And so this whole squad, minus Cat, adding in Randall and DiVincenzo, went to the Western Conference Finals last year and battled, I think it was, a 6-game series or a 5-game series?
It was 5 games, yeah.
5, yeah, against Luka. And Luka was just going balls to the wall in that series. So it's one of those situations where, they are going to be coming into it hungry. They're the underdog. Nobody expected them to be here. And I think players like Ant, players like Randall, Gobert, they love that type of mentality. They love to feel like they are the underdogs, like they, like nobody's believing in them. And so that is probably the only thing that kind of worries me as far as like that mental aspect of the game. And, hopefully, I don't think the Thunder are feeling like this, but sometimes young teams, when they reach a point where they haven't reached before, they're just happy to be there. I don't think that happens with this Thunder team, but we've seen it happen with young teams in the past. And so that type of mentality, that type of thing, all those different like non-statistical things are the things that kind of worry me. The statistical things, the coaching, all that, I think I feel very comfortable with that. Like I feel like, Mark, the coaching staff can draw up a schemes for Ant Edwards and whatever Minnesota does. I think that Shea and the offense they're gonna figure it out pretty quickly, how to get kind of through all those Shea defenders and things like that. But it's more the mental aspect of everything and the experience aspect that kind of gets to me.
Yeah, I mean, I would feel a lot worse about this series if we hadn't just done what we did to Denver, where we went through hell against Denver. Like, credit to the Nuggets. They fought more than – because I had Thunder in 6, but they fought more than I was expecting. They defended much better than I was expecting. They brought us to a game 7, and game 7, the Thunder could have folded, and it's like, yeah, they're not ready for this. And instead they destroyed them. They blew them out of the water. And I'm someone who believes that experience can be kind of acquired on the fly. I feel like a lot of people think of experience and it's like you get beat up and then next year you're back and you have experience. I think you can learn on the fly. I think you can get experience in one series and take it to the next one, or even game by game. I mean, we saw the Thunder lose the first 2 close games against the Nuggets, and game 4 is a close one and the Thunder pull it out. Game 5, a close one. The Thunder are able to pull it out. And, thankfully they gave us a little bit of a stress break and blew them out in game 7. But the Thunder showed that they could learn, they could adjust. Mark is really good at scheming. And I think that gives me a good bit of confidence in the mental aspect going into the series, is that they kind of showed themselves, even when you have 2 heartbreaking losses and it feels like your backs are against the wall, because they kind of were going down 3-1 against Denver is really, really scary. They were able to step up 2 games in a row. They always responded.
We didn't go down.
No, I was saying if like backs against the wall in game 4 where it was close and they were, they won. Yeah, I was saying they could have gone down 3-1 and instead they held strong and they won that game, when it's like, yeah, this is a spot where they could lose and fall apart. So that makes me feel better. Think about the basketball. Obviously, the big thing is, the Thunder defense. This has been a historic unit. Our defensive rating throughout these first how many games did we play in the playoffs so far? 11. First 11 games of the playoffs, our defensive rating is a 101.6. That is 5.2 points better than anybody else. And Minnesota is second, but it's 5.2 points of defensive rating better than Minnesota. That is a massive gap. And, we did have to play we did play the Memphis Grizzlies, but they also played the Warriors without Steph Curry. So I feel like that's somewhat evening itself out. The Thunder have been phenomenal, and that was really the story of Game 7, was the defense, generating a billion turnovers and getting out in transition and running, because the Thunder have had their defensive lulls. But what's interesting, or offensive lulls rather, but what's interesting? If you had to guess, where do we rank amongst the final 4 teams remaining in offensive rating?
Since you're asking me, I'm gonna say first.
Second, but it's not too far behind Indiana. And it feels like Indiana's been cooking everyone, right? They have a 117.3. We have a 115.1. It's only 2.2 points of offensive rating behind the Indiana Pacers, who feel like they've been annihilating everybody. We've done a better job offensively than I think the eye test would say. Like, we've been getting a lot of, and this is with the Thunder shooting, I believe, let me find the exact number, 32.1% from three, 31.9, lower than I even remembered. We shot terribly from the outside. Shea's done a great job of generating looks. It's probably felt like that. Like, that is the main reason why, to me, it's felt like the offense has underwhelmed, is that we just can't seem to buy a three. And I'm of the belief that that is going to bounce back at some point. At some point, we're going to hit some of our threes. I don't know if we get up to our, hopefully, yeah. I mean, it's never guaranteed, but it's reached a point where we are shooting way below what we did in the regular season, but we're still getting great looks. Like, our shot quality is still incredible. We are getting good looks. And it's not like guys are trying to leave us open. It's like Shea gets downhill, draws two, kicks to Aaron Wiggins or kicks to Isaiah Joe or Lou Dort or whoever, and there's someone closing out. Like, they're like, oh, shoot, I need to get back to that guy. They're just not hitting their threes.
Yeah.
And because of that shot quality, I anticipate it's going to go up. I'm not saying we're going to shoot like 40% against Minnesota because they're a really good defense, but I do think the three-point shooting will be better. And it's going to have to be to win these finals. Yeah. We need to be better shooting the ball, or else, we're going to have to go to multiple game sevens. But the good thing with this Thunder team is, because the defense is legitimately one of the best of all time, there is such a large margin of error for this Thunder team, where we can shoot 31.9% from three and feel underwhelming on the offensive end. And J-Dub can really struggle in a series for the most part. Really, almost anybody outside of Shea offensively is not consistent, and we can still beat the Denver Nuggets with the best player in the world, Nikola Jokic, in a 7-game matchup. We can still do that. So if you get like a little bit more production on the offensive end, and this is a much better, this is the biggest defensive test we've had, but if you can just get a little bit more of those wide open threes to fall, I think this game opens up a lot for Shea and for everybody. It makes it easier on Dub too, because then there's less pressure, down low, where he's trying to attack and use his physicality, which he did a great job of in game 7. Dub got to his spots and he just took much better shots, which is what we need him to continue to do. We need Dub to be better. But because of this elite defense, I think the margin for error it's just so much larger for the Thunder, and that should give us a big time advantage, including the turnovers, where like we don't turn the ball over at all. Best turnover rate in the NBA so far throughout the playoffs, 10.7. That's by a decent margin ahead of anybody else in the entire field, never mind the teams left over. And in the bottom 6 in turnover percentage includes the Memphis Grizzlies. They have the worst, went through us. The Miami Heat, who also got swept. The Detroit Pistons, the Denver Nuggets had to go through us, the Lakers, and the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Wolves turned the ball over a good bit. Turnover percent of 15.7 relative to our 10.7 turnover percentage. If you are curious, and just in terms of straight turnovers, we average 10.9 per game. They average 14.8.
I always go back to the game on New Year's Eve, where Minnesota was holding their own in the first half. I honestly think they were up. And in that
I believe so.
In that third quarter, we ratcheted up the defense. We got steals. We got stops. And I believe we outscored them like 43-23 in that quarter. We were plus 20 in that quarter. And that was the game. It's just one of those things where, once we spot a weakness, or once we kind of notice, a play developing or know where to be, we attack. And that was one of those things. That was one of those quarters where we attack. And one of the things that I noticed in the season series was big time quarters, either for us or for Minnesota, because in the game that we lost right before the All-Star break, Minnesota jumped out to like a 17-point lead in the first quarter, and we could never recover from that. And I think, there's a lot of factors playing into that. 1, 2, 3 Cancun, right before the All-Star break. There's a lot of things playing into it, but it made it that much harder to recover. So big quarters are a thing with these two teams. Also like the big quarter they had when they came back in Oklahoma City, when we couldn't make a basket in the fourth quarter. They outscored us 41-19, I think, in that quarter. So big quarters are a thing, and that's something that, we kind of keep your eye on when it comes to the series.
Yeah, turnovers, like obviously, especially for the Thunder, that's where we went ahead and took the massive lead against the Nuggets in game 7. That's where we really started to elevate. You were right. It was 43-23 in that third quarter, and the Thunder generated 10 turnovers to 2 for OKC in that quarter. And that's what the Thunder are going to have to do. Coming to the playoffs, there's a big question of, can Ant and Randall handle the extra pressure that they're going to see? Because specifically, Ant was going to get doubles on him. They're going to send a lot of pressure, going to try and force the ball out of his hands. Can Ant make the right reads? And if it's Julius Randle in that spot, or Julius Randle gets the ball off that Ant swing pass, can he make the right read? Because he's struggled in the playoffs before doing that. So far, they've both been phenomenal in that regard. They're averaging a few turnovers, and they have a few high turnover games here and there. But for the most part, they've done a good job, and that's left the Wolves offense in a pretty good spot. They've got the 5th offensive rating, which is, again, funny because it feels like our offense has been so bad, and we have a better offensive rating than them so far throughout the playoffs. So the Wolves offense has been pretty good. True shooting percentage is up towards the top. I think they're second or somewhere around that. Like, they have been really good offensively, but this is definitely the biggest challenge the Wolves are the biggest challenge we face defensively. We are their biggest challenge defensively easily. I mean, this is the best defense in the NBA clearly. And I think the big key for the Thunder is forcing Ant and Randall out of their comfort zone and generating those turnovers. Rudy Gobert gets the ball down low, poking it out of his hands.
Yeah.
And we did such a good job. Yeah, exactly. Be physical like we were against the Nuggets. We're going to get outshot in free throws. It's the way it's going to go. People keep talking about the free throw battle. The Thunder lose it a lot because we are a very physical team. We're a smaller team. We're handsy. Like, that's kind of our game plan, is we're willing to be physical and give up a couple of free throws or a couple of fouls here and there and get them into the bonus, because it plays into our favor in the end. We tire guys out. We get more steals because of it. We get more points off of it than we're giving up at the free throw line. So we're probably going to lose the free throw battle. But as long as we win that turnover battle by a decent bit, which the stats would tell you so far we should, and I believe we will, that's going to give the Thunder such a comfortable edge, because you saw this team is so good in transition. It makes things so much easier. You don't have to worry about the offense getting bogged down if you're running a fast break and you can throw a lob to somebody,
Yeah, that's the huge thing, is as far as like when you look at the difference in the Denver series was the fast break points. That made a huge difference. That, when you look
at Denver is a really good fast break team, by the way. I believe they had the most fast break points per game or something along those lines in the regular season.
So as far as like looking at, okay, they have Jokic, they have, they shot the ball a little bit better as opposed to us in this series. But the equalizer is fast break points causing turnovers. And we were able to equalize and capitalize on that to a point where that kind of became the winning formula for this series, as far as like, how we score points and how we're able to kind of jumpstart our offense and kind of break through that flood, break through that dam, that offensive dam.
Yeah, and that was the second quarter right there. Was we generate 3 straight turnovers and we got 3 straight buckets, and suddenly, boom, the Thunder were up a million, it felt like. So, yeah, generating those turnovers is going to be huge, especially, I'm interested to see what the scheme looks like for a Naz Reid, for example, because Naz torched us in the regular season. He's really, really good. What is the scheme for him? What do the matchups look like? And I'm also curious what the lineups are going to look like. I think there is a world where we don't get double big to start games. Mark has been somewhat consistent with it, so we'll see. But so far, the stats will tell you that single big has been so much more effective so far throughout the playoffs. Much better net rating when it's just Chet or it's just Isaiah Hartenstein. And with double big, it makes a lot of sense going up against Jokic, because you need that extra size. Hart can guard Jokic. Chet struggles with the size mismatch, and it causes us to have to send extra help. It gets shooters more open. It makes a lot of sense when you're going up against Denver, because Minnesota is bigger, but Chet can be fine out there guarding Rudy Gobert, or, whatever you want to do in that regard. So I wouldn't be shocked if we go single big, especially because, like, when the Thunder need it most, we start the second half with no Ihart out there. It's Caruso. And that's kind of our small, not even small ball, but kind of death lineup there. It's Shea, it's Dort, it's Dub, it's Caruso, and it's Chet, where you are a bit smaller. You have all these guys that play this high-level defense, that fly around, that generate turnovers, get steals, spacing the floor with Chet, like you get that 5-out type of offense. So I wouldn't be shocked. I think we're going to see a lot more of that than double big in this series. I just don't think Minnesota has, Naz Reid can punish you, but nowhere near what Nikola Jokic can. Like, I'd feel comfortable sending an extra body over, helping off of like, a Jaden McDaniels at times. You don't have to help off a ton, but I expect the Thunder to force him to make some of these shots because he's not shot the best so far from three in the playoffs. Julius Randle, I think we'll get a little bit of help off of him as well. Nickeil Alexander-Walker has not been super efficient so far in the playoffs. I wouldn't be shocked if the Thunder help a little bit there too. And obviously, Gobert is going to be down low. He's not going to be anywhere near the 3-point line, but if for some reason he's out there a little bit, then the Thunder will go nowhere near him. So I feel comfortable sending a couple of guys. I'm just curious if that is the strategy they go with Naz Reid. And I don't know. I think once you see the effectiveness of that lineup, the fact that Mark started the second quarter with that different lineup makes me think there could potentially be a shift in the starting lineup. Like if he came into the second quarter there and stuck with it, I'd be like, okay, so he's just sticking with this. But that change made me feel a little bit differently.
Yeah, definitely. That was one of the questions I had heading into game one, is whether we would start, one big versus two bigs, because we don't need to. There's not a need to start two bigs in this series. Like you could put Chet on Gobert. I mean, Gobert has a little bit of old man muscle on him, but not too much. He can handle it. He's not Jokic. And then as far as Randall goes, you could go with either J-Dub, or you could go with Caruso if you start Caruso. But I think this series, your defense is going to shift more perimeter-wise instead of interior-wise. So with that shift, I think you do need to include either, one of your other perimeter defenders, whether it's Kaysen, whether it's Caruso, and put them out there so that, they have – because the thing is, Julius Randle, he's going to back people down. Once he starts backing people down, all those hands are going to get all over the place, as far as wherever he's at. Anthony Edwards, you want to keep him, localized. You almost want to run a zone on him while also maintaining man-to-man. And so I think having an extra perimeter defender helps that instead of having the two big. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if he starts too big, but then it also wouldn't surprise me if he changes that real quick, maybe 3 minutes, 5 minutes into the game, and then we get the other look, and then that look is the one that kind of goes throughout the rest of the series.
Yeah, if I had to guess, I feel like if we change the lineup, I imagine Kaysen would probably start. Like Caruso, I think makes sense, but also Caruso has been so good as like that energy guy coming in during the first quarter off the bench, one of the first guys. So if it changes, I would guess it's probably Kaysen in for Isaiah Hartenstein, but I'm not positive on that. I'm not positive it'll change. But I would be shocked if first quarter of game one, they get out to a quick like 8-4 lead and the double big thing's not looking great. And then from there on out throughout at least the rest of the game, if not, a lot of the series, it just doesn't go that way. Mark's fine with experimenting and giving it a few minutes to try out. But I do think single big ultimately will be the most effective way to play this series. You put Dort on Ant, that's the match you go with there. Dub probably on Julius Randle, although I wouldn't be shocked if you also put a smaller guy to maybe try and have a similar like Nikola Jokic moment where you have like a Caruso, getting up on him, just trying to front the passing lanes. And if he starts driving, then, you poke the ball away or you send an extra guy to try and force that turnover, force him to fumble it a little bit. Just so many ways you can scheme, and the very versatile personnel makes it kind of hard to decipher exactly what we're going to do. I don't think anybody was going to tell you that Alex Caruso was going to be the main guarder of Nikola Jokic in Game 7, and it ended up being phenomenal. That's, the luxury of having this team. You also mentioned, like you said, zone. The Wolves are going to throw zone at us. Do not be shocked when the Wolves throw zone at us. They did not throw zone at us, or they did not throw a zone out there much at all throughout the regular season. But against us, it was much more frequent than opposing opponents. And a lot of that was that game that they ended up taking away from us, where they made the big comeback in OT, or forced it to OT, and then won with Ant on the bench. It was like Jalen Clark and Terrence Shannon and Rob Dillingham and Naz Reid, like that kind of group. That was extremely effective. But the Nuggets threw zone at us, and I felt like the Thunder did a pretty good job overall. Really, the only thing they didn't do was knock down threes. If you want to take a team out of a zone, hit those shots. And that's what happened in the fourth quarter against the Wolves in that game. Was everybody, I remember leaving and it's like, why did we keep taking threes? Because the zone was designed to let us have those shots, and it's shots we've made all season. We just didn't in that moment. And to me, that's an outlier. But I think it also shows, we need the shooting to be better because they have great personnel to run a zone. They've got a lot of length. They've got quickness. They've got size. This is a really good defensive team. if you want to take them out of that zone, if it's starting to make you a little bit uncomfortable or it's forcing Shea to give the ball up, just hit some threes and they'll be forced out of it, or they'll have to extend it a little bit more. And then suddenly Shea has a lot easier driving lanes. So just do not be surprised if the Wolves, I don't know if they'll start with zone, but if we go on a little bit of a run, I think the first tool they're going to pull out of their toolbox is a zone defense.
And I mean, the good thing that we saw in Game 7 was because Aaron Gordon was so hobbled, is you saw a lot more back cuts. You saw backdoor cuts. You saw a lot more, lobbing it to Chet, on a backdoor cut type thing. And the thing is, Julius Randle, not that great of a defender. So if he's going to be playing that back line, he's going to get lost from time to time on backdoor cuts. And so even if you're not hitting your threes, there is that, that other option out there for offensively. You get it into, somebody that's at the nail, they turn around, and then you have two options going towards the basket probably, and they'll be able to find the correct one. And especially like Kaysen, he loves operating out of that dunker spot.
Yeah.
If you have Julius Randle out there and he's a little bit flummoxed on defense, that's a great way to kind of jumpstart your offense.
Yeah, I would expect the Thunder to try and, he's a guy that I would expect the Thunder to try and get Shea some switches on, because with his quickness, I think he can blow by him and create a look for somebody else. Gobert being down low, I know people like to rag on Gobert, but Gobert is still a phenomenal rim protector. He's going to be difficult to deal with. The Thunder need to find ways to get him out of the paint, get him in rotation so that somebody else is open on the side. They will have wrinkles thrown in. You have a couple guys extra on one side of the court to maybe draw Gobert that way. Shea drives to stop the shooter in the corner, and then someone comes in, rotates through, cuts off the wing, or there's someone in the dunker spot and they go ahead and make a play. They have wrinkles to mess with that. But he is the best rim protector we faced so far. So obviously that's also, something new to go ahead and take care of with how much we like to get down low, how much we like to attack the rim. But yeah, those back cuts, that was a huge weapon in Game 7. Grabbing on the offensive glass too, Dort had that really big putback
Hartenstein
layup
early in the game.
Hartenstein was incredible on the offensive glass. That is something the Thunder need to be really effective on both ends on the glass, because Game 1 against Denver, we got killed on the glass, and that was the big reason why we lost, is we gave up 1 million rebounds. We were still in position to win. It still took that choke job to lose. But against Minnesota, you can't give up 1 million boards. They've got to from the get-go box out the way they did in Game 2 and further on down the series. I thought they did a lot better job of boxing out, of team rebounding, of preventing them from getting on the glass. You don't want to give Minnesota extra possessions, because I think they're going to have a good success rate of closing them out on that first try, but you keep giving Minnesota try after try after try. This is a better three-point shooting team than Denver is. You don't want to give them extra shots from the three-point line, let Jay McDaniels heat up, or let Ant start cooking and suddenly he's got 4 threes and 5 threes and 6 threes. You don't want to do that. So rebounding is going to be huge against this larger front court.
Yeah, we saw all that especially in the Lakers series, where you saw Jaden McDaniels. He went off, I think, for a career high 26 points.
Yeah.
But then in Game 5, you saw Gobert kind of go back to Utah Gobert, where he had, what was it, 28 points, 20. Yeah, he had a 20-20 game in a closeout game. So he still got it. He still has that ability. He's a little bit slower, but he's still 7'3" with a damn near an 8-foot wingspan. So still out there, still able to do that. And this is where hopefully Chet, you box out, man. You're 7'1" with a 7'9" wingspan. You're also there also. So hopefully they're able to kind of control that and not give Ant, not give Jay McDaniels, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, all of them second chance points, open threes. You want to avoid that big time.
Yeah, and I want to give Chet credit, because Game 1 against the Nuggets, he had 6 boards. After that, Game 2, 11, Game 3, 16, Game 4, 13, Game 5, 8, Game 6, 11, Game 7, 11. Chet was double-digit boards almost every single night in that series. So credit to him. I thought Chet did a phenomenal job rebounding in that Nuggets matchup. We're going to need him again. Same thing with Hartenstein, whether it's 1 or 2 bigs out there. Dort was huge again on the glass, like I said, in Game 7. Kaysen, it feels like he gets 3-4 offensive rebounds a night. He just puts himself in the right spot. I feel like Shea's done a pretty good job rebounding. Aaron Wiggins, all the guys put in so much effort on the glass in this series, especially after Game 1. After that was one of the biggest reasons why they lost. And you're going to need that again against Minnesota. They've got to be good in that regard. cannot give Minnesota a bunch of extra chances. Just can't do that.
Yeah, especially
And getting
if they
extra
run-
shots as well against Minnesota. This Minnesota defense is going to be big. Get on the offensive glass too.
Yeah, especially when they run zone, and they will run zone. You can do backdoor rebounds also. Like Aaron Wiggins,
Yeah.
his two putback dunks that he's had in the series were because they were playing zone, and he was able to get behind that zone, on a carom, on a miss. So it's going to be there.
Yeah, that's a great point, because when guys aren't, you're not matched up man to man, you don't immediately have someone to box out. It creates a lot more chaos and havoc on that offensive glass, and that is something the Thunder need to take advantage of. If they're playing zone and it's mucking up the offense a little bit, if you get a putback dunk or a putback layup, like that's extremely easy offense. So yeah, I think biggest keys to me, getting those, getting Ant and Randall uncomfortable, generating the turnovers the way that the Thunder do. That's been the biggest key to their success the entire season. And even if the offense doesn't bounce back, like I do think it will at least a little bit in this series. And I say bounce back, again, they've been the fourth best offense in the playoffs so far. But, you get a little bit more efficient offense rather. Like I think that's obviously key, but getting those easy transition opportunities is big, just because especially Minnesota is really good, as a set defense. You've also got to, hit those threes. The threes are going to be huge. Need a big series from Jalen Williams. What he did in Game 7, incredible. Like he was so good, massive bounce back. You're going to need more of that from him. He's been given some tough matchups, like whether he's guarding Julius Randle, or I'm sure there are going to be some possessions where he switched on to Anthony Edwards and he's got to defend. It's going to be a big series for him. I think it's going to be a big series for Lou as the primary guy guarding Anthony Edwards. We're going to need him as well to hit some more of those threes. He's not been the shooter that he was in the regular season. He doesn't have to be a 40% three-point shooter. If he can just get that percentage like 35, I'm perfectly fine with that. Like I was expecting a bit of a drop, but it's been, I think, like 29% or something along those lines. It might even be worse than that. So I need a little bit more from him. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if we get a little bit of Isaiah Joe in this series more so. It feels like, he didn't play a lot against the Nuggets, and I'm not super surprised, but I feel like this is a moment where, especially if the three-point shooting remains cold, like getting Isaiah Joe out there for a few minutes here and there, I would not mind at all. And I definitely wouldn't mind Jay Will getting a couple minutes here and there either. Just be another floor stretching big that we can put out there if need be. I don't think he makes as much sense in this series, because the big appeal of him there against the Nuggets was he's another physical body to throw at Nikola Jokic, and we don't need that as much against the Timberwolves, and maybe for a Naz Reid moment or something along those lines. But especially if like the zone is messing things up, putting him out there as a guy who's been one of our most reliable three-point shooters in the playoffs, I wouldn't mind that either.
Yeah, man, like the Isaiah Joe thing, like getting him some minutes in Game 7 at the end. I think he hit 1 or 2 3-pointers there when he was playing in garbage time. But, seeing the ball go in, maybe, I don't know if he had an issue with his wrist. He definitely had it taped in the first couple of games of the series. And so, getting that time between, Game 4, 5, 6, and 7 where you hardly played, you were able to kind of heal. Hopefully that carries over into the Wolves series, and you have a player that's maybe a little bit healthier, maybe a little bit more spry than everybody else that's been playing so many minutes. And hopefully he just has his rhythm back. He hit a couple threes. I think he had a step back three. And so you, as a shooter, you just want to see the ball go in. Once it goes in, you have your rhythm back and you go from there. So hopefully that happens.
Yeah. Something else I want to note is Mark played a much shorter rotation in Game 7. We've gotten so used to Mark playing these deep rotations. It was the guys that played over 20 minutes: Dub, Chet, Shea, Kaysen, Caruso. Nobody else played over 20 minutes. Dort played 17-15. Hartenstein only played 17 minutes.
Yeah. I also think that he said that Jay Will would have gotten more time, but that Caruso experiment was working so great that he didn't want to mess that up.
Yeah, and which I think this was also a growth series and a growth period for Mark as well. He was willing to go with a shorter rotation, which is more typical for the playoffs. I liked a lot of the schemes he threw at Denver. I thought he did a phenomenal job. I mean, again, who was thinking of putting Alex Caruso on Nikola Jokic? Like, not many people ever. And that was one of the biggest reasons why we won, which, by the way, huge shout out to Alex Caruso for taking on that assignment, thriving in it, and just being probably our second best player in the playoffs so far. It's been Shea and then him, I would say, in terms of the defensive impact that he's made.
Most consistent. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
There was a point in that Denver series where any three that Alex Caruso put up, I was like, that's going in.
Yeah, he's been phenomenal. Like, this is why you trade for him. You get a guy who has championship pedigree, who can slow the game down, who can kind of get everybody settled. And I mean, he made the plays that ultimately won us a lot of these games. Like, we don't come out of this series even close to it without Alex Caruso. So I think it was
God,
Dolan tweeted
that
out.
was, I mean, that was a generational fleecing. I'm sorry. The fact that we got Alex Caruso without giving up any picks, I don't care. Like, ask for a second, Chicago. Just ask for something else.
Yeah.
The fact that we got him for a player that was giving us so many issues and that was coming up on a contract extension is phenomenal. I don't know what Chicago was thinking, but damn.
It's so funny. I was just about to say, I think Dolan tweeted it out. He was like, I can't believe we didn't have to give up first for Alex Caruso. Like, if you show me this and told me, like, okay, how many firsts would you get from in the trade now? I would have said so many. Like, I'd be, for what he's doing right now, I would have given them 3 firsts, 4 firsts.
Like, did they even ask? Like, is the question. Like, I think we have so many first-round picks that I think if somebody asked Sam, hey, can I get one? He might be like, yeah, go ahead. You know, the hell of it. You know, just go right ahead. Like, did you even ask for a first-round pick?
It's like you go over to a friend's house and they've got like all this like all these great snacks and like a snack drawer or something. You're like, whoa, like my family doesn't have these. Like, can I have them? Like, oh yeah, like I don't even care. Like, I won't miss it. Take 6 of them. It's you know, I just don't know. Like, they could have snuck into the Thunder front office or like on the call with the league and been like, yeah, the Thunder are actually giving us a first-round pick in this trade. And I don't think Sam Presti would have noticed it was gone. Like, they could have literally stolen it and no one would have ever noticed. Yeah. I don't understand either how they didn't get a first-round pick out of that. They've just completely mismanaged everything. But yeah, so I think that's most of the series. Do you have any other thoughts on particular things you want to go over real quick?
Yeah, so just one thing. So, number one, Minnesota is the 6th seed. But, as we know, number 2 through, like, number 8 team in the West was, you know, the difference between them was about 4 games.
It was very close.
Yeah, it's very close. So, what I want to say with that is that the Minnesota team, they had a huge, you know, franchise-changing trade right at training camp. And so the Minnesota team that you saw throughout the season, especially the first half, was a team that was, number 1, in flux, and number 2, kind of getting used to their new pieces. You know, so I don't want to I don't want people to look at this Minnesota team and be like, oh, you know, they're the number 6 seed. This is going to be easy. No, this is a tough team. This is going to be a very tough series. This team has come out here lately and probably been the 2nd or 3rd best team in the West. With that said, they have not been stress tested the way the Thunder have been stress tested. You know, they got a Lakers team that was a defensive shell of what a playoff team is supposed to be in the West. You know, they did not have any big men out there, while Minnesota is one of the biggest teams in the league. That's number 1. So they weren't stress tested there. It was 5 games. And then in the second round against Golden State, of course, Curry went out. Was it game 2 or game 3?
Game 1. Game 1.
It was game 1. So he went out game 1. They lost game 1, and then they blew him out in game 2. But the subsequent games after that, they were only decided by like 7 or 8 points. Like, it wasn't anything.
Last game was they were blowing them out huge, and then the Warriors made that like furious comeback, and I think they ended up losing by double digits, but they made it close. Like, I was basically checked out of the game, and I was like, whoa, why is this like a 12-point game?
Like, it was literally like game 3 was like a 5-point game. Game 4 was like an 8-point game, something like that. So the margin of victory outside of game 2 was about like 7 or 8 points. And so you're talking about a team that doesn't have Steph. You're talking about a team that has an injured Jimmy Butler, and they still couldn't necessarily like figure them out to blow them out. You know, the Thunder, I think, would have blown that team completely out of the water without Steph Curry. And so I do feel very confident heading into the series, because I do think that the Thunder, scheme-wise, depth-wise, are going to be able to kind of take what the Timberwolves throw at them and figure it out pretty quickly and play their game and win this series pretty handily in like 5 or 6 games. I would say 5, but you know, I know that there may be the possibility of a game here or there with shooting variance that we lose. Yeah. But yeah, I do think that we are primed to go ahead and take this series.
I agree. My prediction is Thunder in 6. I don't really care about home court advantage or anything like that. I think the Wolves can take a couple of games because they have a really good defense. Our offense hasn't produced the way that, I'd like for it to. I do think there's a bounce back here, but I just think it also helps that we have the best player in the series with Shea. And Shea went nuclear in those final few games against Denver. He's figured it out. Like Tyler just said in chat. W. Yeah, I'm going to be in attendance. I'm 10-0 my last 10 Thunder games attended, so they haven't really lost. So, at least we'll win game 1. But I just think this team is, like I said earlier, a much bigger margin of error with how good this defense is, with having the best player in the series in Shea. It really feels like Dub and Chet have not given us a lot of consistent offense as the 2 and 3 options. We have not shot the ball well, and we're in the Western Conference Finals. Like, this defense is just so game-breaking that the offense can struggle and will still be fine. And again, this is by far the biggest test for Minnesota. I think we got really tested in that Denver series going up against Jokic and that team that has championship pedigree. Like, the Wolves have some experience. They were here last year, but the Nuggets are champions. And Ant is awesome, but he's not the player that Nikola Jokic is. That's the type of guy that I worry about the most, is a guy like Jokic where he can pick you apart. And, even if you have this perfect defense, he's going to find ways to break it. I think we force a good bit of turnovers against the Wolves. I think we do a good job on the glass. I do believe they'll take a game or two, but that ultimately the Thunder defense is the most consistent unit that any team has on either end of the ball in these playoffs. I'm not going to bet against that. I'm not going to bet against the best player in the series. We do have home court advantage. I think Mark is the better coach in this matchup too. And Julius Randle's been so much better, but I think if there's ever a series where he's going to malfunction a little bit, it will be against this Thunder defense. Like, if we get a really rough Julius Randle shooting game where he has 5, 6, 7 turnovers, I wouldn't be shocked if it comes here at least once. So yeah, I'm going to go Thunder in 6. I'm going to give some respect to the Wolves. I feel like they are a very physical, they're a very big team. They've been really good. Through the second half of the season, post All-Star break, best net rating teams, us with a 12.5, Celtics with a 9.9, Warriors with a 9.1, Clippers with an 8.3, and tie with them, the Timberwolves with an 8.3. They were 18-8 post All-Star break, 5th best net rating. It's a really, really good team. But like you said, I do think the battle testing of that Denver series got us ready for this. I think if we went through and had blown the Nuggets out 4 times, we would not be as ready for this series as we are now, because that was a wake-up call. You saw it in Game 7. This Thunder team is woken up. If they play anything like they did in Game 7, this series will be fine. Even if it does end in 5 games, I think it's a close 5 games. I think there is a world where it goes 7 if we really cannot get the offense going, but I feel pretty good that the Thunder are going to win this one. Again, I'll go in 6. So, Western Conference Finals MVP. I'm guessing you're going with the MVP. That if they'll ever say it, for sure.
Why not? It could be Caruso.
It's so funny. I was trying to think of other options if for some reason it's not Shea. The odds on Shea must be minus $1 billion for him to be Western Conference Finals MVP if the Thunder win. But I was trying to think of who else it would be. I guess Caruso would kind of be the pick, but it's just there's no way.
It just kind of feels, if you pick somebody outside of Shea, of course, it just feels that would be the Andre Iguodala type pick,
that's
Kawhi
true.
Leonard stopping LeBron type pick, in the finals,
which is so funny because Sam
yeah.
Presti made the comparison saying that, again, Caruso is kind of our Andre Iguodala type thing. And for him to go out there, hey, if I'll take a Caruso Finals MVP if we can get a Finals. I don't really care who gets Western Conference Finals or Finals MVP. I don't think Shea cares either. I've got the Thunder going to the Finals. Real quick before we get on out of here, who are you taking in the Eastern Conference Finals? Who do you think we end up playing, assuming we do get the W?
Oh man, I think number one, I think that series is going to go 7. Regardless,
I 100% agree. That is one of the
bloodbath.
bigger coin flip series that I can remember in the conference finals.
It's gonna be a bloodbath. I love it. It's gonna harken back to the days of Ewing versus Reggie Miller, Dale Davis, all those guys, and all those guys are gonna be in attendance. I love that. All those older players are in the front
Reggie
row
Miller calling the series too.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it's gonna be Knicks in 7. They have the home court advantage, and kind of funny story for me is my youngest daughter, my 8-year-old daughter, for some reason 2 years or last year or 2 years ago, she got this bug, and she got a liking for Jalen Brunson for whatever reason. I don't know why. I don't know if he's tiny out there.
He's pretty good.
Yeah, and so like she loves Jalen Brunson, like to the point where I brought her a Jalen Brunson jersey. Like it's a Thunder household, but you know what? Sweet summer child, go ahead and develop your basketball love through whatever way you want to go to it. So I told her, I was like, hey, and this was before the playoffs started. I was like, hey, we weren't able to go to the Thunder versus Knicks game in Oklahoma City because we were in Puerto Rico, during Christmas time. So I was like, hey, if they make it to the finals, baby, I'll take you to a game. Knowing damn well that there was no damn chance that New York was going to make it to the finals at all. And all of a sudden, like, I'm probably going to have to take her to a game this year.
That's so tough.
And I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. My oldest daughter, the one that's gone to every playoff game, is going to be shitting bricks because she won't be able to go to a finals game because her 8-year-old sister is going to be going because I promised it to her. So, yeah, that's my story
so tough.
That.
Well, good for your oldest. I'm picking Pacers in 7.
Ooh, nice. So, their offense, man, their offense is tough. Their offense is.
That's the thing. They have just been a buzzsaw. Like they are. I saw this, I think, from an NBA.com article, but they have right now, I think, an effective field goal percentage of 58.3 or something like that, which is the highest effective field goal percentage in like a conference finals run ever in the history of the sport. Like they just physically can't miss right now. Halliburton's ridiculous. Siakam's been great. Nembhard and Neesmith and Miles Turner and McConnell, like they just throw guys at you left and right.
Yeah.
It's a really, really good team. It's so hard to pick, though, because then also it's like the Knicks have the best player in Jalen Brunson. And I worry a little bit about some regression from the shooting of the Pacers, because if you take a look at like their expected field goal percentage and stuff, like it's not it's higher than it should be. They shouldn't be shooting this lights out. They're hitting a lot of tough shots, but it's also kind of what they do. I don't really know. You could convince me either way. Like you said Knicks in 7. I was like, maybe my prediction's wrong, but I'm going to stick with Pacers in 7. Yeah. They got the Game 7 win in MSG last year. And I worry a little bit about with the Knicks what it's going to look like in terms of Mikal Bridges feels like he can give me 6 or 23 one night, and same thing with OG Anunoby. Yeah. And this Pacers team's been pretty good defensively here in the playoffs. They've not been perfect, but they've done a pretty good job. And I continue to think about that second quarter in Game 4, I think, against the Cavs, where Cleveland just like was kind of, it was a little bit close. And then all of a sudden it's like a 40-point game going to halftime. They just get obliterated because the Pacers go nuclear and there's like nothing the Cavs could possibly do. And that team's a lot better defensively than this Knicks team, who has ramped it up. And, they beat the Boston Celtics, but I don't know. The leaning was just how consistent the Pacers have been. They've probably been the most consistent team in the playoffs so far. That was the way I went. I don't know, man. You can tell me anyway.
My thing is, so they beat Boston whenever Boston was healthy by coming back 2 games in a row in Boston, down by like damn near 20, I think, in the fourth quarter. They maybe didn't necessarily have the best player, but they had the most clutch player. In Jalen Brunson. The other thing that I see with this series is I think those long-arm defenders that New York has, they are built to defend a team like the Indiana Pacers. So
the funny thing is, like, I hope we get so many close games because the clutch heroics are going to be ridiculous. Like, Jalen Brunson is the clutch player of the year, and he's done some insanity, and Mikal Bridges making defensive plays and all that. But then also Halliburton's 2 game winners so far, and how they were down like 7. They've been down 7 twice in the last minute of a playoff game and won. 2 in the same run. This is going to be an incredible series. Like, I cannot wait. I'm so sick Game 1 wasn't tonight to be able to just sit here and watch it.
It makes no sense.
I just don't understand it. But, I mean, yeah. So, I'm going Pacers in 7. You're going Knicks in 7. Either way, though, would be a really fun matchup in the finals.
Yeah.
I'm just excited, man. Final 4 left. This is what you play for. This is what you're here for. Let's see if the Thunder can come out with it. So, I went Thunder in 6. You went Thunder in 5 or 6?
Yeah. I mean, 5 or 6. Shooting variance
you don't
games could bring us to 6.
Yeah, you don't got to make anything specific. You don't got. I'm the one who is making the YouTube video where I'm going to put my prediction out there.
There
You
you
know,
go.
one of my favorite things is I picked the Thunder in 6 over the Nuggets, or even when I picked the Thunder to win the championship at the beginning of the playoffs in my like full playoff prediction video. There were so many people commenting, "You're only picking the Thunder because like you think you're slick. You're picking the Thunder because you're a Thunder fan, like this and that." I'm like, they're literally the championship favorites. It is not a crazy take, even slightly, to say the Thunder are going to win the championship, and here we are. Which I mean, we're a favorite now. Like we are by far the Vegas odds favorite to win the finals.
Oh yeah, we are the team with the most pressure on us because we were expected to be here. These other 3 teams, you could say they were not expected to be here.
Yeah, the Wolves, it was maybe they could, like they've got a shot, but I don't think anybody was picking a Pacers-Knicks Eastern Conference Finals. I don't think anybody was predicting that. So here we are. But yeah, Western Conference Finals Game 1 today. Now, as we're recording this, I'll sign off for my hotel here in Oklahoma City. Alex from the Batcave will both be in attendance for Game 1 on Tuesday today. Now, as we're talking to y'all, but we appreciate tuning in as always to the Topic Thunder podcast. If you're on YouTube, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss out when we go live. We go live. It's been after every single playoff game up until this point, or almost every single one. I think there was like one blip on Mother's Day. But we go live after almost every single playoff game, now every conference finals game. And, heading into the offseason too, we'll have a good bit to talk about even still. We can go ahead and hype up Nikola Topic highlights. We'll talk a little bit about the draft, things like that. So content won't be going anywhere. Rate 5 stars, download all that stuff on podcast platforms, wherever you are watching or listening or whatever it is at this point. There's like video podcasts on Spotify and stuff now. But we appreciate tuning into the Topic Thunder podcast as always. God bless, hoop while you can. And as always, Thunder up.
Thunder up. Game 1.
Let's get ourselves to a finals, man. Come on.